Hi, I'm Arsham, and this series of videos about computer science and game development are sponsored by Kitacode. I've started taking a course called CS50 made by Harvard, which gives you all the knowledge you need for computer science and game development. And this series of videos are summarized versions of that course. Feel free to check it out for yourself. Now on to the video. In the previous videos, we talked about data types and variables, so I recommend you go watch that because some of the things you've learned in those two videos might help you here. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about operators. In order to manipulate and work with variables and values in C, we have a number of operators at our disposal to help us. Let's take a look at some of these now. One of the examples of the operators are arithmetic operators. What are arithmetic operators, you ask? Well, they're basic math functions like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Although these two symbols are not familiar to us because they're not usually used to represent multiplication and division, we use asterisk and a slash to show them. But don't worry for that now. Once we start coding with them, you'll get the hang of it. We also have another operator which is called modulo, which is represented by a percentage sign. So let's take this expression for example. If we store this expression which states 10 modulo 2 in a variable and print it out, we would get the value of 0, which means 10 is divisible by 2 and has no remainder. But let's try another example. In this example, we're using 13 modulo 2, and if we print out the same values of the variable, we would get a 1 this time, because 13 divided by 2 has a remainder. Alright, welcome back to our coding laboratory. And this time what we're going to do is talk about operators in here. So let's get started. So we're going to go through plus, minus, times, divide, and modulo, and a bunch of other stuff as well. But let's start now. So what we want to do to make stuff easier, we want to use two inputs basically and silent our code as we go along. So let's do it. So int, let's name them A and B to make it simple. And what we want to do now is get an int. So get int is using the CS50 library. And so yeah, get int, and we want to enter just enter number. Just make it simple. And we want to get another number from the user, so let's just copy this line of code. We don't need to type it again, get number. Okay, so now we have two numbers which you could use universally across it. So now what we want to do, let's start with a plus. So print f, basically, this is also a very simple video. If you guys know this already, you can skip it. But you can skip onto modulo, which I haven't really talked about, and incrementation, which is towards the end of the video. But for now, if you guys are not sure about it, make sure to watch this. So this is very good. So what we want to do is do a plus b, which is just our thing, equals to, and the output. So basically percent I in this case, comma a plus b. Again, you could put this in a variable, but don't worry about it. Since we're doing an inline and we want to do it for each one, we don't really need that. So we do a plus b. So now we can make this, and I've already made make operators and dot slash operators. There's no errors, which is good. Now it's going to ask us for a number. Okay, before we do that, let's clear our buffer because we're going to have an issue later on without having the new lines. So yes, we need backslash n. So make operators dot slash operators. So now it asks us for a number. Let's just try 2 and maybe 6, for example. As you guys can see, a plus b is indeed 8. 2 plus 6 is 8. So yes, this is for addition. Now let's move on to subtraction. We can just silent this. We don't really need it. So let's unsilent this. Now this time we want to do subtraction. So we just do minus, and this time we do a minus b. It's also very simple. Make operators. Slash operators. Now we enter a number. Let's say, to not make it negative, we do 8 minus, for example, 3. Or, yeah, 3. And so it becomes indeed 5. So 8 minus 3 is 5. So this is very simple actually. So that's why I'm going along pretty quickly based off of this. And now let's do another one. Print f. Now we want to do multiplication. And as I talked about earlier, we don't really represent them with like an x as we do in math, or a divide symbol as we do in math itself. And for multiplication, we use this asterisk basically. It's basically like a star. And for division, we use a slash. So basically a very simple way of doing it as well. So yeah, so what we're going to do is a multiplied by b is equal to percent I, comma, So we forgot the \n, and this time we do a star b, or a asterisk b. So let's see what happens now. So let's make operators, /operators. Okay. So what we want to do is, for example, multiply 6 by 4. As you guys can see, 6 times 4 is 24. Also very simple. Now let's copy it to make it simple, silent this. And again, if you guys want this code, you guys can check it inside the description below. I'm going to leave it a link to my GitHub, which you guys can check it out. So yeah, now what we want to do is do divide. So we do slash this time, and then we do a divide by b this time. So yeah, now we can make it. Yep, we can make it now. So make operators /operators. There you go. So let's do 10 divided by 2, for example. So enter number. Then we have 10 divided by 2, which is indeed 5. Yes. So yes, there you go. Now we silent that. Now we've done these. So these are the basic 4 operators. Now what we want to do is move on to another one. So this one only involves one input, so we don't really need to ask it once. We want to check if a number is even or not. And if it is, we want to print out even. So yes. And we haven't really gone onto conditional statements just quite yet. I think it's a bit further in the course as well. Yeah, it's the next video that we're going to do. So yeah, bear with us, but for now we're just going to use it again until next time, which I'm going to explain more in depth about how to use it and some examples as well. So now we do if, in which I want to check if a is equals to, if a modulo 2, so basically if a divided by 2 and the remainder is 0, which means the number is even, since for example 9 divided by 2 has a remainder, so it's odd. So let's do it and print it out. So print, let's make it cooler a bit, so percent I is even, like for example like that, and then we put a there, semicolon as well. And since it's even or odd, there's no middle state, we can just put an else here. And yeah, basically else, and then print f, scroll down a bit, print f percent I is odd. There you go, pretty good. Don't forget that, comma a, and yeah, so this is basically our simple program. So we silented this because we don't really need 2 inputs for now. We're just checking if it's even or odd. So let's clear our buffer to make it look cooler. So make not operators, yes, actually operators. Make operators /operators. Enter number. So let's say we want to check if 5 is even or odd. So it would say 5 is odd. And again, we forgot the \n. So let's do that. Let's open a new terminal. Bring it down here. \n are very important, especially if you don't want to debug out and be all in the same line. So make, oops, what have it? Okay, I think I pressed Control S in here. That makes it a bit buggy. Make operators /operators. There you go. Okay, so now let's check if 10 is even or odd. So 10 is indeed even, because when you divide by 2, there is no remainder. Okay, so this is basically how you use modulo. There's other ways you can also use it in your code, but for now we're just going to check if something is even or odd. So that was for that. Now we want to move on to completely something different and something extra that we would use regularly in C and other programming languages as well. So let's silent this, we don't really need this, and we want to make a new variable. So int x, and originally we want to set it to 0. And what we want to do in this example, and this extra information I want to give you, is called incrementation. And incrementation is basically setting a value 1 higher than it was before. So adding 1 to the value, basically, to keep it simple. So yes, there are many ways that we can do this. So there's a few ways actually we can do this, and some better than others. So like less confusing, I mean. So we have, if you want to add 1 to this every time, I want to show you guys how you increment it. So this time we can just put x, since we don't need to specify the data type, since we've already declared and initialized the value of it. So x, and how we increment it is equal to x plus 1. So we need a semicolon, and this works as well as other methods that I'm going to talk about right now. So x equals x plus 1. So now technically the value of x is going to be 1. So yes, let me just put some comments here that might help you guys. So 1, value of x is 1. Let's copy this since we're going to use it about a few seconds later. So another way of incrementation is x plus equals to 1. Instead of having another x, we can just replace it with a plus equals and 1. So now technically the value should be 2. And now we want another way, which is I think the most simplest way, but you can't really control how much you want to add. So it's pretty simple if you want to increment by 1 every time. But yeah, let's do it times plus, sorry. So x plus plus basically adds 1 to it instead of having these two ways. You can use all three of them. All three of them do work, which I'm going to show you right now by printing our value by using %i again, comma x. There you go. So the value indeed should be 3 because we're adding 1 to it every time, and we have done it three times. So make operators, no errors, which is perfect. Run it, and indeed it is 3. And also we can do the same thing for subtraction as well. Basically, so in this case what we do, let's give it a number higher, or actually yes, we can give it a higher number so it won't go in the negatives. And instead of doing all this with plus, we can do it with minus. So minus, 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 and we can do this. The value of x here would be 9, 8, and 7 in this case. So we did x equals x minus 1, x minus equals 1, and x minus minus, which was decrease 1 every single time. So let's open a new terminal because we kind of forgot the \n in this one. Let's not forget it this time. So make operators /operators. There you go. Indeed it is 7 because it gets minus 1 3 times. Okay, now that we've done some examples for operators, now let's move on to what are called Boolean expressions. And Boolean expressions are basically used for comparing values. All Boolean expressions give either one of two outputs, either a true or a false. And this brings us to logical operators, which are tightly connected to Boolean expressions. We have 3 different logical operators: ands, ors, and nots. If you'd like to know more in depth about these, you can watch this video I made on logic gates. It might help you, but don't worry, I'll be explaining the basics here as well. So let's start with the AND operator. The AND gives a true as an output only if both operands, which are the values being compared, are both true. Otherwise, the outcome would be false. So let's take a look at this table to understand this a bit more. In this table, the only output which is a 1 is a case where both inputs are 1. Other than that, it doesn't meet the requirements of the logic gate. Okay, so now we're back into our coding lab. So let's say we have 2 variables which are both booleans and their values are set to true. And we want to check if both of them are true, then the statement will be true in general. So let's name one, bool A equals to true, and bool B equals to false. And this is basically using the AND operator. I'll get into how you use that in C. It's not very straightforward, but it's pretty simple as well. So if A equal true, and, so we can't just write and, although it might seem like it works, we have to use ampersand, basically double ands, the symbol of and B equals true. So if both of them are true, they want to print F A, well, basically both are true. Okay. Now, if we run this code, so make operators /operators. Oh, I didn't notice actually. I just noticed it that we didn't put this to true. As you guys can see, since we don't have any other state, which basically says if A is true and B is false, it wouldn't print anything. So in this case, now we found a good thing. So we have a B is true and A is also true. So let's make it again. Make operators /operators, and both are true. This is very good in this case. So if we now change it, you guys know what would happen. If we change B or A to false, then it wouldn't work unless we have other statements which check this. Alright, now let's move on to the next logical operator, which is an OR. The OR gives a true as an output where either one or more inputs are true. So let's take a look at this table. As you can see, the only output which is a 0 is when both inputs are 0. So that was pretty simple. Now let's move on to our last logical operator, which is a NOT. And this one is the most simple. All this operator does, it basically reverses the input. So let's see this table. So when you input a 0, the output is a 1, and vice versa. If you put in input of 1 and it outputs a 0. And in C, as I gave an example earlier about the AND, you cannot just type and basically compare values with them. You have to use different symbols. So for AND we use ampersand, ampersand, there are two of these symbols. And for OR we have to use pipes, basically these dashes, these vertical dashes. So these are called pipes basically. You can call them pipes or anything else you like. And for the NOT operator we use an exclamation mark. So basically if something is not equal to, you have to do exclamation mark equals to. Alright, so that's all we need to know about operators. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please feel free to subscribe. And hit that bell icon to get notified every time I upload. Thank you for watching, and bye bye.